Hey, what's going on, guys? We're Pioneer back video. Today we're on Cafe MC with another cannoning video for you guys today. Today we'll be talking about counter cannoning, and it is a pretty essential part of cannoning and factions in general and competitive factions. So we'll be going over specifically how to use my counter cannon that will be released. But really, you can apply this to any counter cannon that you have. If it's your faction's counter cannon or any other counter cannon that you have, I'll be going over how to use it, how to hit any box that might be trying to attack you or raid you or anything. And yeah, so this will be a pretty in-depth description of how to use a counter cannon. So as you can see, this is basically my older 1 rev cannon, except with a couple of different adjustments to it. This one here has a shit ton of more power. As you can see, this can shoot about, I believe, 350 chunks, which is somewhere around 6,000 blocks, I believe. And also, the other major difference is that instead of it stacking at barrel height, which is 9 game ticks and then 14 game ticks, so 9 on the 1 rev and then 14 on the hammer, this is 10 game ticks to get that extra game tick a distance and 14 on the actual hammer. So it's going to stack 1 low, but that's pretty standard for any cannon. So as you can see, I set up an actual full-on box. This bedrock wall represents the world border of your actual faction. If you don't have that, that's obviously fine, but on my bases at least, I have my actual counter cannons off the world border. And then you have a full buffer of walls right here. Obviously, like right here would be your actual base wall. But other than that, this is a full 20 chunk buffer, everything here, sand check walls, everything, got all that going here. And we have 3 scenarios. We have one scenario where the base is the cannon box is right up against the world border like so. And we're also going to imagine later on that this gap right here, it's smaller and it is in line with the counter cannon. And then we have another one right here where it is in line with this gap right here. Then we have another last scenario all the way out here where it is not in line with either. So you'll have to actually mine out your own walls in order to hit the cannon box. So the first and most basic scenario and the easiest scenario is if the actual cannon can be hit within this gap here. This gap can range from whatever distance you like. Ours is usually about 7-ish blocks long like so, so we have it kind of set up like that. You can have it 1 chunk, you can have it 2 chunks, you can have however large of a gap you want, but essentially it'll make it easier to actually fire your counter cannon faster because you don't have to mine out any of your own walls because there's no walls here, there's no point. So you can just line it up and hit this box right away. So usually what will happen is you'll get cords, preferably probably want to hit the corner of the box if you can, because then you can actually tunnel it and like the actual wall, but you don't have to. Let's just say we're going to hit right here, so you can see the cords are going to be -15189. So just for this sake, I'm going to memorize 189. Go over here, find where it is, and then you're going to line it up. So 189 is going to be right here, it looks like. So place a block there, and just to be safe, I would actually place blocks going all the way down like so, because then if you do need to adjust up and down, you can. So now that you actually have your X adjustment set up, you might need to set up a actual Y adjustment. So within here, you can see I have all these pillars here, and all these pillars do something else. This main one right here adjusts your Y direction and your Y axes. So if you want to go to 255, it automatically goes at 255 here, because at the very top, it's going to hit the top, and it's going to straight out and hit that block right away. If you do want to adjust to a lower Y level, all you have to do is go on this little pillar and then place a block there. It'll adjust to hit that one, go over here, and then hit and go out that cobweb, effectively lowering the Y level. And that general rule goes through all of these pillars here, but I'll get to these pillars and what they do in a little bit. So now we're going to actually start firing the cannon here, and you will see it hit the wall. So all I got to do is slash lever, and you'll see that I will move and everything will start to fire at this level. So come all the way out here now. We should be able to see. There you go. And then you are countering their actual, cannon wall. So of course, they're probably going to be defending this, and you probably should have members on this wall at least trying to prevent them from patching it, because obviously they're raiding you, you're raiding them. You're going to have to divide it up somehow with people on here, prevent them to patch, and then people on your own walls and patching that. But obviously, as you can see, we'll be going through the walls with no issue at all. Now you can see we're about to breach. I'm about to get into the cannon box. Oh my god. and you're into the cannon box. And it's all water sources because I set it to water. But yeah, so now you're in the cannon box. Look at you. So cool. And yeah, there you go. You're into that cannon box. So now obviously that was a pretty easy scenario. You can get your counter cannon up going really quickly by just placing those couple of blocks. But now we're going to move on to the next scenario where you cannot actually fire within this gap. So we are going to be taking this area, and instead of firing at this middle cannon box, we're going to be firing at this cannon box right here. Now to make your life easier, I guess depending on how far you can adjust, my specific counter cannon can adjust about 30 chunks. But depending on how far off this is, you will always want to hit the closest to your own counter cannon. So in this case scenario, it's going to be about 173 is what we're going for here. So this is a bit different, kind of, in the sense you actually have to mine out your own walls, which can be a pain in the butt, don't get me wrong. But if you want to efficiently get this done, you have to do that. So as you can see here, now it's not within this area. We have to go into our own walls and then set it up just like so. So all I gotta do now is just place the block right there, and you'll be firing now at 173. And now, since you can see, obviously, you'll be hitting your own wall if you just fire right now. And you probably don't want to do that. So what I recommend is most servers have an obsidian breaker pickaxe that you can use. So I would use that, go down here and mine this all out. Depending on what you want to do, if you do plan on adjusting your Y level and you have something called a sand wand, you should sand wand this entire row of sand down so you can actually adjust it. But if you're not planning on adjusting your Y level, then just mine the singular sand. So you have to go through your entire buffer, just like so, mining down every single bit of obsidian and sand until you have no walls left to mine. Now, one thing I did kind of forget to mention is that you will probably have an ocean where your faction is patching in. In this case scenario, I just quickly world edited one in. You can see here you obviously will have a little gap here of about a chunk or so. So when you're actually setting this up, you will have to, kind of be wary of what's happening here. If they're firing near this general area, you're going to have to make sure that when you're setting up the counter cannon, that you won't be hitting your own patches, which is something I've done without a doubt. But usually sometimes, people will be patching and you would end up hitting your own patch, which is obviously not what you want to do. Now also, the main concern with this whole setup is obviously you have a straight line all the way to your base. Usually most cannons can't actually fusion that far unless they have a shit ton of power. And even like 1 revs at this distance, it's not going to work. Nothing's going to work because it's going to dip. And so you shouldn't really have to worry about that happening unless you do end up mining it like 3 low. But I would just watch out and make sure that the base firing or the faction firing at you is not, trying to pull a fast one and fire through your counter holes. So as you can see now, we should be lined up with the base over here. So if we just /lever it, we should hit it, no issue. And there's the shot. And now obviously you can see we will be going through this set of 20 walls, which is pretty standard on most servers, is 20 walls for an actual cannon box. But now I'm going to be going through all of this and getting this all done and stopping their raiding. So the cons of doing this obviously is it takes much longer to set up. So if you can fire through that gap, that will make your life a lot easier because you don't have to mine anything out. But if you can't, it's absolutely essential that you do this, then you will obviously have to mine it out. Another con of this setup is actually readjusting. Obviously it's going to take a lot longer to, if you want to stop shooting there and you want to shoot here, it's going to be a lot harder and take a lot more time to do that. So it's going to be a lot more difficult and dangerous to change your Y, the height that you're actually firing at. So you just gotta be cautious of what's happening there. And obviously you can see we just breached, so I'll stop the cannon. And there you go. As you can see, we obviously breached this cannon box with no issues at all. So 2 more scenarios that we have to go through, and then you guys should be all caught up on how to counter cannon. So the next scenario is if they're actually world border cannoning like so. So you have this little gap here, obviously you can fire through, and if we fly out, you'll see that, oh my god, there's a cannon box here. So what are you gonna do? Obviously this cannon is originally supposed to float to the left, but we can also change it to float to the right. So obviously since that cannon box is to the right, we will need to change it. So go down to here and you can see kind of the barrel setup right here, and we can change that to make it so it can float to the right instead. So in order to set this up, it is actually really easy to do. All you have to do is get rid of the stair, and right here is where the power comes through. Put a ladder there, just like so, and then place a fence right there, and that'll make it so the power's right here, and the actual sand, hammer, TNT, all that stuff is going to be right here instead. So now you will be adjusting to the right. And just like usual, you'll have to set up a block or two right here. So obviously you can't really use the world border as an adjustment spot, so you will have to place a block or a couple if you really wanted to, just like so, and you will now be ready to fire the cannon. So if we slash lever it, we will start firing, and you'll see that we will start going through this area over here. There it is, and now we're hitting this cannon box. So obviously the only con to it is you have to reset up your barrel a little bit, but that really shouldn't take too long if you know what you're doing. So now we're going to go through the very, very last scenario, which can sometimes be a bit hard to not set up, but for the actual base and people trying to raid you to actually do. And that is that their cannon is actually completely in line with your counter cannon. So that means that their actual width of their cannon box is either the same or smaller than your counter. So they have their walls lined up with your counter cannon walls. So we're going to pretend that this right here is lined up with their counter cannon walls, and we cannot actually fire through here. So we're going to have to do the same thing that we usually would with this, except obviously do it here. Now for this example, we're going to be using the same thing by floating to the right, which, like I said, you can place 2 of the fences right here and 2 of the ladders right here, and you can now float to the right. And these are where these pillars come in play. So these pillars right here obviously are lined up with all these cobwebs on these walls, and that is so you can actually adjust inside your own box. Now there are 2 that actually use floating to the left, and that is this one right here and this one right here, and that is where you will be floating to the left in that case scenario, and those go right there and right there. Essentially that is the same usual setup as your typical stair. So if I get back a stair out, and it's the same thing if you were to have this, put your stair back, and obviously like I said, with this you'll now go up and you'll have your adjustment. And if you want to fire straight out, you'd obviously just place a block here, and then that would fire straight out and hit that with a typical cobblestone guider. And if you wanted to go over here and hit within your box here, obviously same thing, floating to the left, then hitting that right there and hitting through those cobwebs. But like I said, for this example, we're going to be floating to the right, so go back and place your 2 fences right there, and then place your 2 ladders right there to set up that new adjustment. So for this scenario, I guess we will fire at, I don't know, we'll go right here, so you can see that your blocks for adjustment are on this side, so your actual shot will be going through right here. So all I have to do now is place a block right there. You'll see it'll go up here and then hit this as your adjustment, and then go straight out. So if we take this and go straight out, you will see that we will hit a cobweb right here. Obviously you'll just go out of your cannon box, but in this case I'm just going to do that, and then do the same thing as you usually would for your regular walls and mine all of this out. So now that all of it is mined out, you can see here that our entire area is, like I said, walls are mined out, and you can now hit this cannon box here. So if we lever it, you'll see that we will now start hitting this box. And there's the shot. And obviously now we're hitting the cannon box that is lined up with our own counter cannon. So that is pretty much every scenario you will ever have to encounter when counter cannoning, really ever. Only other scenario I can think of is cannoning at like Y1, but this cannon I believe can go down to Y0 if you really wanted to, so all the way at Y0. I don't have it at Y0 right now, but it can go down to Y0 if you wanted it to. So then obviously you can adjust from pretty much right here, this spot right here, which will be about like, yeah, Y12, Y15, somewhere around there. Y15, which almost any cannon box will hit that Y level, and higher. So you can hit from Y15 to Y255 with this cannon with pretty much no issues at all. I will provide a full download to the entire cannon, including the actual cobwebs, so you guys can set it up at your leisure with no problems at all. As you can see here, there are some extra blocks on the side though, so if you really wanted to, you could, remove these extra blocks and make your cannon box actually smaller if you really wanted to, but you do not have to at all. So yeah, guys, that is counter cannoning pretty much. That is all you will ever have to know. If you guys have any questions about, certain scenarios that I might have to encounter or anything like that, just let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. But yeah, guys, I'm ready to play it, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.